Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another stream with Swaggle Haas. You know how we had to do. We have a heritage auction, signature auction, platinum auction going on right now. And I felt like doing a little bit of a watch along, a watch party here this early morning on this Thursday. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys have your coffee. You're ready to sell off all of your stocks that are crashing and put them into comic books. Because apparently maybe tariffs won't have any effect on the domestic hobby that we love, which is spending big money on things like funny paper, old expensive paper. I thought that the auction was actually starting at 10 Central Time. Usually that's how the heritage auctions go. But then I realized, oh no, it's starting right now, which is why it's a little bit of a flurry getting into it. So I'm actually going to pull up the auction right now, and I'm going to share the screen, and then we'll kind of do a little bit of a catch up generally throughout the show. We'll kind of take it as we go. We'll probably stream for about an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half, just to see kind of the premiere books like this one right here. This AF-15 7.5. It's always interesting with a lot of these signature auctions, because I feel like for a while, a lot of them were going absolutely insane in terms of the amount of books that were actually like being put up there, like the the biggest of the biggest grails. But when you look at the lineup now, as far as like what's going on for auction, it's not the same general lineup. Like this AF-15 and a 7.5, big book. Maybe it's worthy of a session one, but I don't know, kind of atypical. Like I feel like we've seen other heritage auctions where the 7.5 has been in like session 2 or session 3, things like that. We got Dennis hopping in the chat. Warner World Comics. Yo, Swag. What's going on, Dennis? Good to see you. It's funny. I'm trying something different here on the channel. I actually have a video clip from a Swagglecast episode with Brian McClay, who is the co-host with Dennis, that came out at 9 a.m. And now I'm doing a live stream. I feel like this is bad YouTubing. Too much content at the same time for people to engage with. So it's probably going to cannibalize itself. All right, let's take a look here and see that this book went for $144,000. I think that that's probably pretty low, all things considered. But it's one of those things where I made a video talking about, some of the books. I previewed some of them. And I said that I think that this auction is the homecoming for a lot of comic books. And what I mean by that is, with everything we've been doing in terms of looking at the numbers and analyzing prices and the complicated index and all this stuff, we've kind of been like seeing this trend that is emerging, which is that anything that was in COVID, any froth that came into comic books at that time is basically going to get sucked out of it. It's not necessarily going to go below what things were going for in 2020, but you have to imagine that all the tours came in during COVID, all of the inflation came in, with the book values. And we're going to be at this point where basically we got to get rid of all that. So when prices are crashing, it's like they're really just normalizing. So I called it homecoming. Like we're all coming home to what the prices should be. And so anyways, I previewed that this AF-15 that just sold the 7.5 for $144,000. And I made mention that I thought that that was going to be around that price. Because if we can look at some of the numbers here previously, we can see that the last sale at Heritage Auction, just 6 months ago was 156,000. And then some of the sales before that at the peak were, 198, 216, 300,000. And then early in the COVID boom, April of 2021, which was, kind of around the peak, but like, let's just call it, that was the initial burst. It was 156. And you have to go all the way back to 2019, for the sale before that, which was 120. So this book selling at 144, again, kind of goes right back in line to where it should have been, the normalization of the values. And with everything going on with tariffs in the stock market today, I don't know if people are feeling like they got to move money into comic books, or if they're thinking to themselves, maybe comic books are safer than what is going on in the markets today. Let's check back in with the chat. We got MJ in the house. MJ, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Dennis in the house. Hey, Swag, love the channel. Appreciate that, Dennis. Thanks for stopping by. We got Sean here. I'm afraid that people won't be buying books if they are losing money in the market. Yeah, Sean. I mean, it's like, what do people always say? You know, the narrative always follows price. So whether the book sells for high or the book sells for low, or stocks go for high or stocks go for low, or whatever it is, people will make up the narrative after the fact to fit whatever the price is. Even though, like, if in another scenario, if the price was different, then the narrative would be different. And I kind of think like that's going to be the case here, where you could totally see two narratives. Like, either one, people think that the stock market is not going to be the place where they should put money, so let's go buy crazy stuff like Pokemon cards and comic books. Or you can think it's the opposite, where if you look at your stock portfolio and you're like, oh man, that's green everywhere I go, you're more willing to spend on things like funny books. And so I think it could go either way. I mean, ultimately, listen, some of these books are going to sell really high. Some of these books are going to sell really poorly, or not poorly, but like they're going to do the homecoming thing. Dennis says, crap, I got to watch that after I plug my Val Kilmer episode I just launched. Oh, cool. Well, I'll definitely have to check out the Val Kilmer episode. If you guys don't know, Dennis has been doing great YouTube content, so be sure to check out his channel and go sub him up. Yeah, I pulled out a little clip. I did a podcast with Brian McClay that I'm going to put out tomorrow. If you guys want to check it out, you know, it's a new Swagglecast episode. We kind of talked about WonderCon and kind of got into a bunch of different topics and things going on. But I pulled out a clip today about current comics. And so kind of released that as a little bit of a preview, and got into Mary Jane Venom, which I'm sure everyone is crazy about. I'm kind of letting some of the auctions gather here, guys. And then I'm going to, like, when we have a few to look at, I'm going to follow up on them and we'll take a look at what they sold for. We'll do a bit of a recap, but let me keep saying hello to all of you guys. Dennis says, crazy about the TFAW closing online store. Yeah. I haven't looked too much into that. I wasn't a customer of theirs, but I do realize that is kind of big news. Man, you go live the same time you upload a McClay video. What to watch a real selfie show? Yeah, Patrick, listen, sometimes you got to try things. You just got to try different things. Like, I don't know if it's like totally an idiotic thing to do, but the reality is that I wanted to put out the clip. And then I also thought I wanted to do a live stream of this heritage sale. And actually, I thought that the heritage auction started an hour from now. And I realized I had to move up my live stream, and then I had the video set to release. So they came out at the same time. I don't know, guys. I don't know. The Legend of Sanity, Swag. What's going on, Nando? Good to see you. We got West Coast Dave here. Hello, Mickey, a.k.a. Swag, a.k.a. Mickles Tickles. Well, I haven't heard someone call me Mickles Tickles since that one crazy night in Tijuana. What? These big boy flippers can't keep flipping gold chip books like this if they want their market to survive. Yeah, you know, Dennis, you might have some good insight on this. And maybe this isn't necessarily a critique, but I've been thinking about this a lot, that I always make jokes because you watch these auctions and you'll always see these same books. I'd say 65% of them pop up on like an Instagram sale or a dealer page, like sometime shortly thereafter. So clearly there's a lot of dealers that buy this book, which isn't buy these types of books, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But then it makes me kind of wonder, because a lot of these guys are sort of operating on credit, right? They're like buying these books, on a payment plan, or they're trading in other mega grails that they have already, to consign with Heritage so that they can pay for, the one book. And then I just started thinking, like, with everything going on with comic stores and Diamond, all this stuff, I'm like, how much of the vintage market is kind of leveraged, with all these like mega grails and all this stuff? Like, what are the, the dealers and the auction houses, doing in terms of like, how many books that they're using, but then like the values of the books are this, but then it's a lot of trade-ins and partial payments and all this stuff. And it's kind of like, is there really that much money in the system, in the vintage system, or is it all just kind of fugazi? I don't know. We'll never know, because that's kind of the nature of auction houses, right? You'll never really know. You can never have too much content. Oh my God. That sounds exhausting, Ricardo. It's a buyer's market. Glad I went to Cash and Metals in January. Dennis has great videos. It's the same with art. All the reps lurk the signature auction. Yeah. And that's, I mean, that's not a knock. I mean, it's just like, there's not going to be, like, we are the people watching this, right? Like, we're very hardcore in terms of like our collecting habits and all this stuff. So someone's going to buy these books, right? It's going to fall in the hands of somebody at a certain point. And most of the time it's going to be dealers, because the casual collector, even if they have money, they're not going to spend the time, even if you're Eminem, right? And you buy like the most expensive A15, like, I don't think Eminem is like sitting watching the Heritage Live right now. Maybe he's in my live chat. M, are you there? No, he's just going to pay whatever dealer, and he's going to pay whatever premium. He doesn't care. All right. So we have Detective Comics #1 selling for $228,000. The record price for this book. Now, what's funny? It's like, this is cool, right? It's cool because it's like a unique thing. Like, I think this is the type of book that sells maybe once a year on average. But like, I don't know. Do you really want it? Like, who really wants this? Like, the hardcore whale collector obviously wants this. But at $228,000, I mean, you're playing in you got some rare company, at that point. Let's take a look here. I think that this is the clear record for this book. 108 for a 5.0 in 2022. This one right here, the 6.5. So the higher grade, over double the price, which is pretty wild. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not the top of census. There's an 8.0 right here, and there's 2 other 6.5s. It's like, it's one of those things where it's like, that's the perfect example of a book that was going to sell for crazy. This one I'm very interested in. Dynamic Comics #8. Great Gus Rica cover. Gus Rica obviously has been, all his books have been crazy hot. Crazy hot recently. And I think that the Bobby Blue one was the highest sale around this price. I think that this might have beaten it already, but that was lower grade than this one. So this is one that I think, Golden Age book, pretty rare, has a higher chance to sell for more than what it got previously. It's going to beat its record for sure. We got 24/7 in the house. Yo, what's going on? Good to see it. Six Face says the rare stuff will probably pump along with gold. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's a lot of instances where, as long as Golden Age did not sell at the height, then it's going to sell for more than its previous sale. Does that make sense? Like, if this Dynamic sold at the height of comics in 2021 and 2022, it probably would have gotten more than 56,000, which is the price that it just hammer closed for. Probably would have gotten more than this. And then if it were to go for sale today, it probably would get this. So what helps a lot of the Golden Age books is that they didn't sell in some of those windows where more people were going crazy over comic books. Now, this is not all Golden Age books, but that's one of the benefits of them. So it's like, this is why it looks so bad with a lot of like other types of books that like have gone up so much and then they crash so hard down, is because like we see those sales. But for Golden Age, they just skipped some of those big sales. And that's why it's not so bad. Dynamic 8, let's take a look. Dynamic 8. I think that this is probably the record for this book as well. We had the Bobby Blue one sell for $45,000. So $45,000 in a 4.5 compared to this $56,000 in a 6.0. So I don't know, $20,000 for the 3.0. It's kind of like that could have sold for anything. Like, you can't really determine like what that should have sold for. There's only 2 higher grades than that. But based on what Detective Comics went for, based on multiples, over its previous sale compared to this. This didn't have like the same massive jump as, say, that book did. All right, let's talk about Batman 1. As more sales come in, let's talk about Batman 1. Poor Batman 1. Selling for $96,000. That's actually pretty decent, to be honest. That's actually more than I think I thought it would have gone for, but less than its previous sale. Because this is one of those books that actually sold for $108,000 back in November. Same book, same heritage auction. Someone put it back up for sale. I always wonder in situations like this, like, is this a non-payer, or is this somebody who they had it for 2 months and then they were like, why did I buy this thing? Or is it one of those situations that I talked about where like maybe a dealer bought it because they were like, because someone was going to buy it. And then that dealer now like couldn't get the sale. They couldn't get the flip. And they're like, okay, well, I'd rather open up, cash to buy other things. And let me just put this back in. And by doing that, they took a $12,000 haircut on the value of their book, on top of the fees and stuff that they had to pay for it, and the tax and all that other little nickel and diming things. But I guess that's not too bad. I mean, that's pretty impressive. 96,000. I mean, that's probably, it's like whoever the underbidder was for 108,000 here is probably the person that was like, yeah, that was my underbid, 96,000. So there you go, which is definitely a lot better than the last 1.5 sale that sold for 72,000. But this one, obviously not as nice of a copy, even though you have the Stanley signed on the case right there, which is kind of awkward, to be honest. But the fact that this one is flaking right here, people really do not like brittle pages. That's definitely a thing that hurts any Golden Age books value, like consistently. If you see brittle pages, it's always going to underperform relative to what it usually sells for. We got Comic Ozzy in the house. What's going on, Ozzy? Good to see you. All right, let's take a look here. So we talked about, let's take a look actually at this Action Comics 242. I don't know what to have expected from this, but let's see if there is a lot of Superman hype right now. This is this first book that came at auction. A lot of people speculating on Brainiac. A lot of people excited about the James Gunn Superman universe. This one's selling for $22,000 as an 8.5. So second highest graded on the census. And I can already see here an 8.0 back in September of 2019. Sold for $25,044. 2018, $20,400. And 2016, $34,004. So this one going for $22,800, probably what people would describe as a weaker sale in general. Higher grade going for less than a 0.5 lower grade that sold 6 years ago. And so this is, this is the funny thing about these types of books too, where this is 1958, not quite Silver Age, still technically Golden Age. Although I guess you guys can argue that maybe it's Silver Age, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of in that tweener area. But there's only 677 universal. So it's not too many overall, but it's also one of those books where it's like, maybe there's a raw copy out there that's a 9.0. Like, it's probably unlikely that there is, but at the same time, it's not impossible. So maybe you see some of these sales like this, like an 8.0, like back in 2016, maybe that was the only 8.0 at the time. And that's why it got 34,000. And then over the years, as more people said books in for grading, more 8.0 showed up. And that's why the value of this book actually went down, because it just wasn't worth that. Maybe they thought they were buying the top of the census at the time. And then it was like, fooled you. There's more books on the census. So that one kind of weak overall, or slightly lower. All Winners 21 selling for 36,000. I mean, kind of a fun book. This is the example to me of a book that I sort of feel like, I mean, it's a 9.8, so I get it. I get why this is like in a session one book, but kind of an example of a book that I feel like, is this really session one worthy? You know, no disrespect to the all winter fans out there, but I kind of just feel like this session one is not the heat that we've seen in other session ones before. We already talked about the 7.5. I'm going to assume the 6.5 that sold for 93,000 is also another book that went home, so to speak. In fact, why don't we just do the work? We have the internet, we have the tools, we have the ability, and we go to the 6.5, and yeah, I mean, what do we say? 93,000. Last sale was 90 in November. That's actually surprising because this one actually looks like a nicer copy. That's a really nice looking 6.5. Don't you guys think? I think this probably got a 6.5 because of the tanning down here, which, by the way, CGC is really harsh on tanning compared to this one. I mean, I feel like we got a big color break up here, you know? Like, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. I don't know. There's people that would definitely be like, nah, that right there plus that plus like that up there plus that plus that. Old label CPR. Or maybe this was just somebody who lost out on the 7.5 and they decided to pay that. But pretty cool. I mean, not too bad of a sale, but again, returning home, back to homecoming. We had the 9.4 ASM4, which, can we just admit, guys, this is the weakest early ASM cover, right? It's the weakest cover. The 4 panels and the blocky panels. Is anyone going to stand on business and defend this cover? Let me know. We have amazing Spider-Man number 5, the Doctor Doom cover. This one's pretty cool. 9.6. I do think that there is a 9.8 of that. What else we have? We have the Blue Ribbon Comics number 21. Kind of a cool, like, MJ magazine. These ones are so obscure to me, like, or MLJ. I think that they're kind of fun, but yeah, I just don't have the bug for them. All right, let's take a look at Fantastic Four number 1 right here in a 7.5. Nice looking copy, $78,000. We checked on the Brainiac, James Gunn, Superman hype. Can we also check in on the current Fantastic Four hype? As we have the movie coming out later this year, which I'm excited to watch both films. I really am. And I think we're going to learn a lot about the future of superhero comic book movies, depending on how these ones perform. All right, so we said 75,000 for a 7.5. Let's go down here. We see 75. Okay, yep, 78,000. Last sale for this. So a little bit less, but right in line. But again, the homecoming has happened, right? We go back to September of 2020, where it was $69,000 giggity. And then it jumped up to 168. And then it was 84. And then it was 88. And then it was 78. And now it's 78 again. So slightly elevated relative to its mid to end 2020 price. And we've officially established that the book is home. It's home now. You know, this is in theory what you should pay for this book based on the trends. Now, if nobody wants comic books in the future, then it's going to go to zero, but you know, that's what it is. All right, let me check back in with the chat. What are you guys talking about here? No one is sold on Gina's DC yet. Creature Commandos was good, but too short. You know, I haven't actually watched Creature Commandos yet. I need to check it out. But isn't that a problem in and of itself? Like, how have I not been converted to watch Creature Commandos? I am the target demographic to watch the show, but they can't get me to do it. I feel like that should say something, right? That should say something. My comic budget is low right now because I'm trying to finish my 1980s Battle Beast collection series, number 1. Oh, Brandon, that's Battle Beasts 1980s, man. You know, toys is what's up. Toy. We gotta listen. Comics. It's been fun, guys. It's been fun. But if I'm being honest, I could literally be PewDiePie right now if I was talking about Pokemon and toys. Channel rebrand in the future, and mukbang, which we already established with Carl when he was eating pho on the channel. West Coast Avengers, Rock Hubby's out there in high grade. They are out there. I'm saying, I've gotten so much flack before when I said, like, I made the video that was like, oh, nothing is rare. And I was saying how there were books out there, that are raw, that are like crazy high grades. And there were people that were like, trying to hate. And I was like, dude, I've seen them. 2, people keep finding them. And 3, even if I haven't seen them, I've heard so many stories. Like, people will look me in the eye. They'll pull me aside and they'll go, dude, that guy's collection, you have no idea. Like, that guy's collection would dump on any high grade CGC collection. It's all raw, blah, blah, blah. Like, and I've heard that story multiple times. Now I realize that's kind of like people talking about, like, dude, I've seen the aliens. Trust me, bro. I realize it's a trust me, bro story, but they seem pretty convinced. And why shouldn't I believe them? Because there are a lot of people out there in comics, a lot of old school guys that don't like CGC, and they've been collecting for decades, and they won't send their books into CGC. Like, we know that story. So we know that they're out there. We know the high grades are out there. Just watched tape for Comic Book Investments. Hulk 190 go for 260 when he was hoping for 350K. That's right. Dave commented on my video, actually. I'm talking too much. Dave commented on my video. Oh, well, wait a minute. It went for 312. 260 was the price. But with the buyer's premium, it goes for 312. And just so you guys know, buyer's premium is included in the GPA values. But let's take a look right here. Was David being unreasonable with his expectation of what this book should have been selling for? Let's check in. So he had a 9.0 copy, 14 others on the census, 7 higher grade. Let's take a look here. So in 2019, it was 216. We did not get a sale during the comic boom. In 2018, it was 264. 312 seems totally fine. Seems totally reasonable to get. Oh my God. I'm just looking at this 9.2, guys. So like here, it's this to me is the example of, like, this book sells for 336 in 2018, then it went for 825. Like, that seems crazy, dude. Like, we need to bring that back down right here. You know what I mean? I mean, I realize it's 9.2. There's only 6 others, but I mean, I don't know. Same with this. 245 for an 8.0. There's no way that this, or 8.5, there's no way it would get 245 again if it went on sale today. 8.0. Yeah, see, there you go. See, this we get to the 8.0. That's what the graph should look like. Even for a Grail book like this, that's what the graph should look like. It's, up and then back down, but still above over here. So I kind of feel like Dave did well. I think this is really solid for him. All right. 9.0 copy. Let's take a look. I don't know, Dave. I mean, it's pretty nice, right? It's an 8. 9 is fine. I'm okay with a 9.0 on this. Oh, all right. We're not going to talk about that. We're not talking about that. Congratulations to Dave. 312,000. What an amazing book. The buyer absolutely got a hell of a deal on that one right there. Let's see. $7.5 was definitely better. Dan, prices are all over the place, right? Stock market is all over right now. I think sailing your comics right now is a bad idea. I mean, not necessarily. You know, the only thing that matters is what you bought your comic for and what you sell it for. You know, up market, down market, bear market, bull market. Who cares? So if you can get more for what you bought it for, then you're winning, right? That's how I feel. Nobody ever went broke taking a profit. HBO has abandoned all advertising, and Gunn is just keeping everything too close to the chest. Have they abandoned their advertising? Oh, you mean for Creature Commandos? Yeah, I mean, I don't hear about it anymore. So, I mean, that's one of the problems too. It's like, I don't think I'm ever going to go back to Creature Commandos unless, let's say I watch Superman and then I'm all like invested in the DCEU again. And it's like, oh yeah, we got to watch all this stuff. Then I'll maybe go back and binge it, but I don't know. Dave says, found a Golden Age collection 3 years ago. Archie 55 was in there. It's now a 9.2 and the highest on the census at 70-plus-year-old book. Yeah, see? It happens. These things happen. People find them, and then they're the new highest on the census. Okay, with the buyer premium, I didn't realize it was included. Yeah, it gets included, which, I mean, you know, not for the seller, but it gets included in the fair market value of the book. And that's actually kind of one of the things that people always complain about Heritage. I've heard people complain about it and say like, oh, Heritage, Heritage has a, they put the buyer's premium on, so it's more expensive compared to like say other auction houses. I'm like, it doesn't really matter. Like just when you're buying a book, just assume the price is with the buyer's premium. Like if we're looking at this book right here, you know, it says next bid 34,000, but then you see 40,800. I mean, like, don't even pay attention to 34,000. Just look at 40,800. Like that's the price you're paying. And just know that if you're buying on Heritage, that should be your budget or your consideration if you think that buyer's premium is a fair price or not. We got Dave in the house. What's going on, Dave? The issue was I had an offer of $350, which I passed on due to time limits. Oh, I see what you're saying. When was that offer though? Was that like a recent offer or was that like, say like a year ago or so? And actually, you know what? I don't know if you've done a video like this, Dave, but you know what would be cool is to talk about, you should do a video about this sale and when is Heritage going to pay you out, right? So like, does it take Heritage 4 months to give you this money? And then you can actually do the math and be like, okay, if you did time payments plus like and Heritage is going to take 4 months to pay me out, like what would have been the cost benefit analysis of that? So, okay, recent offer like in February. Ooh. Well, you know, sometimes you get it, Dave, and sometimes you get got. And what is the saying? You just got to make sure that you get it, got more than you got to get. Something like that. It takes 2 months for Heritage to pay me. The main issue is I had this Hulk on credit card, so I had all that debt plus other debt, and Heritage fronted me the money. Oh, interesting. Man, you guys are crazy, man. You guys do great, but man, the risk tolerance for a lot of comic stuff, and actually that's Dave. I was talking about that earlier in the stream. I don't know if you're here, but I always wonder about like all of these books at Heritage, like how many of them are on like leverage or pay plans or dealer trading in other books, consignment, whatever. How much cash are people really into this stuff? Quasi says, hey, Swags, what's the big Val Kilmer book I should be picking up? X-Men 1, first appearance of Iceman. Too soon, Quasi, too soon. We got Dan in the house. Great to see Dave from Comic Book Investments in the chat. Yeah, I agree. Dave says, so I rolled the dice with Heritage thinking I'd get 350K from Heritage and it would work out, but it didn't. Oh, man. Well, I'm sorry about that, dude. Hopefully when it all gets sorted, you're still in the green somewhat with it, right? Like you're still like in a good spot. I don't know what you ended up buying it for or how the whole, how you even got the book. I actually don't even know. I wasn't sure if this was a book from your personal collection that you've been sitting on. Derek Neiman, my God, man, get 5 gifted subs. I appreciate that, Derek, man. Thanks so much. That's awesome. Hopefully you guys opted into getting the gifted subs. You know, I actually, I wasn't sure how they actually worked. And I had to look it up, like, I don't know, like 2 weeks ago or something like that. I was like, what is this gifted sub thing? Like, do people just randomly get it? But Derek, thank you. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Derek just went all Santa Claus, right? That's appreciated. You know, I'm over here streaming Heritage and just shooting the shit with you guys, not working on what I should be working on right now. No comment. Outside of YouTube, I'm procrastinating, but I'm here for you guys. So the 5 gifted means a lot. Everyone, like, thanks for Mickey for the live. You got it, man. Of course, it's always fun to do the watch alongs. I'm still in the green, but it hurts that I left all the money on the table. I'll do a video all about it once I get paid. Funny thing is, the person who offered me the 50 bought the book from Heritage. Damn, dude. Well, I wonder, actually, wait, if they're a collector, let's assume that they're not a resale seller. So what did the book go for? Yeah, well, one, I look forward to watching your video on it. That should definitely be good. 312. So 312,000. What is the sales tax on that? Sales tax, well, it depends on where you live, but let's just pretend it's, 9% plus 312. So, I mean, like if they're a California resident and they bought that and then they're paying this sales tax, on top of the fact that, like, I don't know what the shipping is for that book. Oh, Dave, I'm trying to make you feel better. I'm trying to make you feel better. So if they're a dealer, then they're not going to pay tax probably because they have a reseller license. But if it was a person that was buying it, they basically would have been at their budget anyways, 350. So it's not. I cut out. Where did I leave off? If I'm back, hopefully I'm back. I think, I don't know, my button went here. But yeah, I was saying, Dave, like, yeah, we were always trying to reframe it. Although when you do make the video, obviously it's got to be a hand face thumbnail. It's more fun to watch L's than it is to watch wins. That's the nature of YouTube and humans. Comic Book Money, I don't have eBay, sir. David Durant, can't wait to see the video version. Yeah, we can't wait. Yeah, we'll give it a share. All right, let's check back in. Swag, pay attention to the books. Pay attention to the books. What should we talk about here? This one's kind of cool. So we have First Appearance of Robin, Detective Comics number 38. Let's see. Take a look here. Detective 38. Yeah, my desk is a little crazy right now. I got comics and stuff everywhere. I did a little elbow kick out of my microphone. Detective 38, 6.0 copy, 45,000. Take a look here. 64,000 in 2019. What? See, this is another one of those things where it's like, in 2019, were there less books on the census where someone was like, I'm going to pay 64,000 for this? And maybe more have been added since then. Let's take a look at some of the other things. What recent sales have we seen? So 6.5 went for that. So 6.5, 72,000 in 2024. Seems like a pretty low sale, to be honest, right? Ooh, look at that. 5.5 went for 68,955 back in June of 2022. So this to me is a good example of like, a lot of people say like, oh, they take the stance that Golden Age is immune and Golden Age like doesn't go down. But it's like, there's definitely books that happens. A lot of times they also are a lot of the superhero books because like people can FOMO and speculate on the superhero books just the same. Wonder Woman is a perfect example of that. But no love to Robin in this auction. We need James Gunn as soon as possible. We need James Gunn to come in and save the day. Oh, Hulk 181. I got to say, if I was buying a 9.8 of Hulk 181, I'm not a page snob, but that would bother me. Wouldn't that bother you guys? An off-white to white 9.8? I say it all the time. Like, I don't know. Or maybe people see it as a deal. Because if they pay 72,000, then is that a lot less than what they could have got it for? Let's see. But this is also a book that really has been coming back down to earth, so to speak, or doing its homecoming. Actually, if anything, that was a pretty good one. 72,000, considering the last book sold on Golden auctions for 62,000. Off-white to white. 72,000 on Heritage the time before that. 72,000 on Heritage the time before that. I think that this was actually the same book. Another instance where, someone bought it. They're like, actually, I don't want it. And they resold it a couple months later. So funny how that happens. I mean, it's not. It's just, obviously, it's a dealer that had that book. 66,000, 72,000, 78,000. So back and forth with this guy. I got to be honest. This was a book that in 2020 was 47.5. December 2020, September 2020, 49. I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that it still goes down more. Like that, this would be a slightly concerning purchase, in my opinion. Like maybe it should be more in the 50s range, based on what I was going for. Especially since, as we've discussed, there's definitely 9.8 raw copies of this book out there. 100%. There are 9.8 raw copies of this thing. But hey, 72,000. Great sale. Awesome book, regardless. Let's check back in with the chat. Swag, what do you think will be the future of Golden Age comics compared to the average stock market return, 10% on average yearly, now with interesting economic times looming over us? I don't know. I think it would be case by case, but I think I'm not convinced that a buy and hold of a comic would outperform the S&P 500. I think it can, absolutely, but it depends on what book you get. And it would likely need to be a Golden Age book, and it would likely need to be a significantly desirable Golden Age book. Like, it's not like My Captain America 3.5. Like, that's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about like a Blue Label Tech 31 in like a 7.0 grade that you have to hold for 10 years. Like, those would be the types of books that it's like, I think maybe you could beat the S&P. I could be wrong on this, because I don't have the numbers in front of me. And, I'm not a financial advisor. But from what I've looked at in terms of the values of books, I'm not always sure that all books compete at that level. There are some that have, though. But we're kind of in that weird spot where, because they got so inflated in COVID and they're kind of coming back down, it's a little bit unclear right now where things are going to settle. But say prior to COVID, I think you could say that would have been true for like an AF-15. Like AF-15 actually did kind of go at like 10 to 15% year over year. So that would be something that would have beat an S&P. But now it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. We'd have to really unpack it. I'm just getting into picking up comics for investing. What video should I watch? I would say watch a bunch of videos from all different content creators, take it all in, filter it all, so everyone has slightly different opinions, and realize that arbitrage is truly the way. I have one video on my channel that's called The Golden Rule for Buying Comic Books. My golden rule. So far, that's worked out pretty well for me. How closely is the IRS watching Heritage for capital games? Seems like a much easier picking a time than dealing with corps that have lawyers. I mean, I'm sure they service people, their 1099s or whatever, paperwork they get, 1099Ks and things like that. I don't know if Heritage themselves have been audited, but I'm sure to some degree they're doing things by the book. I don't understand what it means to gift a membership. Membership to what? Membership to Swaggle question, Swag, you always profile that high-end books, but do you ever look at the lower-end books that Heritage runs? I ask because are there any deals to be found? I find that, the chamber. Wait, hold on. What is this one currently sitting at? A 4 or 5? 11? It's not bad. I kind of want to bid on it. Yeah. I've talked about the ones later on in the auction. I think that these auctions, the ones that are the signature auctions that have like a lot of big books and stuff that come together at this moment in time, I tend to find that these auctions sell higher. I think the best deals that you find, even for like Golden Age keys and things like that, are when you're watching the weekly Heritage auctions. So if you just every week, Heritage does auctions, and sometimes you'll find like a Chamber of Chills 19 in that auction. You have to wait and be patient, but those will be the times when you find the best deals. I find that these auctions, people usually come to play. And I also used to think that you would think that the auctions later on in the episodes would, of course, I'm generalizing here. There's obviously every single auction has high and low sales and things like that. But in general, I find that even the deals later on in the auction, like the session 4 and 5 and things like that, which go on sale Saturday, I think what ends up happening is if you're somebody who already spent $100,000 on an AF-15 and you have that type of comic budget, you're already thinking to yourself as the auction goes along, well, I'm already paying for shipping. I'm already going to have a giant bill with Heritage. Let me throw in a couple other things so that, when the package arrives, I have multiple books to open up. So I think that it just becomes a tab for people, keep it open, so to speak. And so a lot of the books, even at the end of the auction, sell for a decent amount. All right, let's check back in here. Watch The Big Short and keep your money. All right. Oh, we got a new auctioneer in the house. All right, I got to go back. Let's take a look and see if there's any books that were worth talking about. All right, we talked about Dave's book. We talked about Hulk 181. We had some Marvel Comics, Marvel Mysteries. Pretty cool. Cool Schomburg cover in a 9.4. I have to assume that's top of census, 20,000. We had this one right here, 28,000. Marvel Mystery 52. Superboy, 21,000. X-Men 1 in a 9.0. Let's talk about this one right here. 9.0, $108,000. Does that seem good or bad? I don't know. Cream the off-white pages. A little break up there. Man, you know what? I look at some of these grades, man, and I'm just like, dude, I've had books that are nicer than this that got less than 9.0s. What the hell? You know what I mean? Sometimes I just I actually do think that CGC is fairly consistent. But I think one of my recent submissions, I got a bad day from my grader. I'll put it like that. They didn't have their coffee that morning. All right, 9.0, right in line. 109, 102, 108, 114. Yeah. So it was already up to 185, 156, 78 before that. Now back to 109. Now back to 108. Right in line. So it feels like this is kind of the new floor. I mean, could still come down a little bit depending on how many come to market, but yeah, not bad. Homecoming, where every book is home now, At least that's what we think. Although I do owe you guys a index video update, and we have to look at it because the goal with the index has always been to see if the trend doesn't continue to go down. Now, the problem with that is some of the books in there may never return. Like if I think about the Bronze Age, one of the books in the index is She-Hulk #1. And it's like, is She-Hulk #1 ever going to stop going to zero? I don't know. So there are some books that might continue to, in mass, in the aggregate, draw the values of comics down. But then there are books like an X-Men 1 or an AF-15 where it's like, oh, no, okay, these have finally stopped hemorrhaging. So it's kind of different economies in a way, depending on what book you're actually talking about. Crypto. First appearance of Crypto. Adventure Comics 210 in a 7.5. Look at that. What do you guys think? People were not happy that I didn't lose my mind over Crypto during the James Gunn trailer. I mean, yeah, cool, fun. It's a dog, All right, 7.5, 11,400 was the last sale for that. 14,400. Look at that, guys. So there you go. James Gunn hype. Crypto the dog. Don't sleep on him. Not bad. Is that a record for this book? Potentially. 16,000. No. An 8.0 copy. 16,800. So not so close. Close. So there you go. Crypto hype is for real. Any other interesting books right here? We had another Batman 1 and a 0.5 sell for $57,000. Well, there you go, guys. There's your entry-level copy of First Joker. I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd love to have that book. But 57 for that copy? I'd rather be buying other things at that price point. That's a beautiful 8.5 for a Batman 4, 38,000. These early Batmans, people always want them. People always want Batman. Well, there it is. Let's talk about these two books for a second. Captain America Comics #1, 132,000. A little bit of a Frankenstein copy, right? Small amount of glue, spine split, seal to cover reinforced, staple replaced. All that resto can be removed except for staples replaced, Otherwise, this would be a pretty awesome book. Cap 1 is definitely my personal grail. That's my personal one-day book. But I think I'd rather have a blue label, even if it was a 1.0. That's me personally. This one was pretty cool too. $12,000 for the 5.0 conserve. Staples reinforced, cover cleaned. I love this book, man. What an awesome cover. You get so many things going on in this book. You got the first Red Skull on the cover, you got the damsel in distress, you got the bondage, you got Captain America, you got Schomburg, you got Joe Simon and Jack Kirby working on the interior, and you have Stan Lee as well. His first written work. I mean, I feel like that's underappreciated. The amount of legendary creators that all touched that book. Other cool Cap books right here. Gotta love the Shark one. 5,000. That seems like a pretty decent price. This one right here, the concentration camp book. This one's always expensive. 4.5, 17,400. I'm actually curious about this. Captain 46. Let's take a look together. What was it? 4.5? Something like that? 5.526. 4.030. Ooh, someone got a deal. So here you go again, guys. I mean, it's not always $33,000 for the 4.0 back in 2024. June of 2024. Then this 4.0, 27,600. We have been on this schneid. 4.5 going for 17,400. Captain America, nobody cares about him. His books suck. Nobody buys Cap anymore. It's over. It's over. Damn, dude. This Chamber, 7.5, selling for 28.8. That was less than the Bobby Blue one. And then we had this one, Chamber 19, selling for 4.5, 12,000. That's not bad. That's not bad. This is definitely a book that I would like to add to my collection at some point. I've almost pulled the trigger a couple times. I thought about bidding on this one, but then I was streaming, so I didn't. And I don't think 12,000 is that bad for a 4.5. But this is also another one where I kind of feel like there's kind of a lot out there, so I can like really be choosy. Probably best to buy it in person, get a deal on it. 144 universals, 4.0s, 10,800, 4.5, probably right in line. I mean, actually, here you go again. 4.5 sold for 11,000 in 2022. Then you had this one right here sell for 17,400 just last year in January. And then a fixed price of 16,150. Now back down to 12,000. So Homecoming, guys, Homecoming. Actually, some of the pre-code horror books had a delayed comic boom effect. Like they only kind of really got going later on. But this one's finally dropping back down, generally speaking. But it's not dropping back down. It's just coming home, as we've already determined it here. Let me check back in with the chat. We got still only 35 cents. What's going on? Good to see you, man. If you guys don't know, check out his channel. Great channel over in coming out live from Australia. I got to see him, and we got to meet up in person, which was a lot of fun, and it was a good time. At WonderCon. Confirmed, Swag hates dogs. Just call me Michael Vick. I'm big into crypto. Oh, the dog. Same. Let me check back in. Is that Batman 1 from a yard sale last year? And I have Cap 100 CGC in 3.0, only 20 in the census. I'm so proud of myself. Kirby the King. That's awesome, Shauna. That's a great book. Cap 100 is awesome. Yeah, underrated. Kirby, I've been thinking about the Kirby signatures recently. I think I need to add one to my collection for sure. I just wish I would have bought more Golden Age in the 90s than Super Copper Ages, lol. I did get to own some cool Golden Age books. What's funny, Reef, is, I only really deep dive got back into comics like 2017 was when I really came back in. Like I was reading comics like during the Bendis era, but I wasn't collecting vintage. And then of course I was collecting when I was like a younger kid. But sometimes I wake up in cold sweats thinking to myself, like, man, when I was in like a comic shop buying Darkhawk in the 90s, were there just like Golden Age keys for like $20, like in the store that I was at? Like you think about like, what were all the potential books that I could have bought instead of the ones that I did in those stores at those times? It's not like there would have been an Action 1 in there. Of course not. But like, was there an entire run of like Marvel Mysteries? Did they actually have a back issue bin of like all these Schomburg covers? They probably did. They probably did. Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not. I wonder if they did this auction yesterday that these books like Chamber would have gone higher. Ken, it's certainly possible. So far, the narrative is that like, obviously there's going to be some big sales that come out of this, but there's going to be a lot of sales that I think you can consider weak. But to me, I just look at these sales that are weak as correcting from what they should have been corrected to. But yeah, I think if if your stock portfolio is littered up with red today, you're not as willing to pull the trigger on some of these expensive books. All right, so we have the Chamber 19s, the 4-5 for 12. That's probably a good thing. I mean, I maybe should have bid on that one, but it's okay. The thing is like I just don't worry about anything anymore. You know what I mean? Like there's just nothing. There's just nothing I feel like now is the time I have to buy it, which is great. It's a great position to be in as a buyer. Crime 22, 13,000. Let's take a look at this one. This is another one that there's kind of a lot of this book out there. And this would be a fun one to have in the collection at some point. I've never owned it, but would be cool. But there's just no pressure for me to ever really buy it. I know it might sound silly to just say like, yeah, I'll just have it fall in my lap one day. But I kind of feel like that. I kind of just feel like, yeah, it'll just fall in my lap one day. 5-5 selling for 95, 6-5 selling for 19. Last 6-0 was 10,000 in 2023. So this one wasn't too bad. 13,000. So this one's not too bad. Selling above the previous 6-0, solid copy. Some congratulations to the seller and the buyer. I got the Hitler covers that are pretty cool, or a lot of people like to collect those ones. These early detectives, always very popular. This is a cool one. This is kind of like your last affordable early detective, like pre-Robin, 1940s early Batman, but it's not like the mega key that the other detectives are, but still a cool cover. I mean, you still have to pay 22,000 for a 5-5, but I love the moon. I love how they did the smoke on these characters or these covers, and then great trade dress. I think Detective Comics, these will always be desired, because even when we're all in retirement homes, nobody collects comics anymore in the future, we're all still going to look at this detective cover. We're going to be like, oh yeah, that's badass. And so I think that the hobby of vintage collecting will always appreciate those books. All right, let's take a look at the clock right here. Well, how are we doing? How are we doing on time, all this stuff? All right, we good. We good for a little bit. I'm trying to see what else is interesting that's coming up. Famous Funnies #1 is cool. We got some Carl Barks covers, 4-color. Those always are fun to see. Hey, we got a Haunted Thrills #6. The Bobby Blue book. Is that what that says? Oh yeah. Bobby Blue collection, Haunted Thrills 6. I got that book. It's a great cover. This is an awesome one. Nobody wants to buy it. I'm the only one that buys it. But someone's going to buy it today. So that's a cool book. I think there was a 9-2 that sold like crazy money recently. This is a fun one. Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies #1. First appearance of Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig and all that stuff. I've never made a video talking about the what do you call these guys? The Looney Tunes types of characters, the crazy cats, funny books. And they're just not that popular, but I think they're cool. I wonder if we would ever get a time when these books would pop off. I don't think they ever will. And I think I can't remember who was telling me this story of I think it was a dealer that was telling me this. They made a trade back in the 90s of their Captain America comics #1 for I don't know, whatever, one of the keys for, the Looney Tunes books were. And it's like the trade that did not work out for them. These books just have never been hot. They just never really popped off. Although of course these ones are always going to have value, but in general, as a genre, similar to Western, they just never had their comic collecting heyday like the other genres have, like horror and superhero and even, good girl art, things like that. Marvel Mysteries coming up. What else is cool? Fun Comics, Pep Comics, some cool ones here. This is kind of always a sweet cover. This Pep 34, right? Pretty crazy. Got this like mad scientist, zombie looking Nazi guy with the girl with the syringe, and this one's pretty wild. It always sticks out to me when I see it. Yeah, Planet Comics #1, some Lou Fine action, right? That's who did it. Startling, number 49. I always think that this book is more expensive than it is. I mean, not that it isn't expensive, but to me, I'm always like, oh, like an 8.0, like this is like $100,000 book. It's like, no, it's not. There it is. The granddaddy of them all. Suspense 3. My God. 1.5. This is a nice 1.5. Like, considering, I mean, it's already $58,000, but the last 1.5 sold for like 40 something and had like tape all over, and it was like tape pulls up here, and it was not as decent presenting as this one is for a 1.5. Like that is your, if you're somebody who it's like, you want this book, like this is going to be your best chance to kind of get it, at least in this, near term window. What else we got? And then we get to Silver Edge. All right. So we got some interesting things. I mean, let's check back in here. Golden Age was always expensive. Talking about books in the store. Pre-code horror was so low 10 years ago. Now that it's appreciated, oof. Golden Age always had those antique mall high prices. I know it's old. It's worth lots. Yeah, that's probably true, right? I mean, the funny thing about comics is like, even though we look back now in hindsight and we're like, oh, it's so cheap. It was so cheap back then. But it's like, I kind of feel like it's just one of those things where like, it's always relatively expensive no matter what, right? Like even 10 years ago, if you were spending $5,000 on an AF-15, it was like, that was expensive. It was like, I cannot believe I spent $5,000 on an AF-15. And now people are spending like $30,000. They're like, I cannot believe I'm spending $30,000 on AF-15. So by that logic, 10 years from now, guys, $100,000 on an AF-15. Comic books only go up. I'm watching for the outcome of a Star Trek 1 in 96. Only 7 copies on the census. Really? Is that how rare the Star Trek 1 is? Are you talking about the Dell Star Trek 1? Certainly can't be the Star Trek 1 that is like the Copper Age one, right? Chilling Tales 19. Do you mean Chamber 19? Was 20 to 40 bucks in the 90s. My God. Isn't that crazy? Now Kirby art is big money at shows. Jim Lee be cracking heads too with his prices. That's what I'm doing with Pokemon, just keeping sets and promotions, sets aside and do a 20-year challenge. I mean, not a bad idea. It's like, we'll see what happens with all these like Pokemon cards and stuff. I mean, I'm sure some of them are going to be definitely more valuable 20 years from now. All these shoulda, woulda, couldas. I mean, we all should have been buying GA Westerns. Yeah. GA Westerns, I'll tell you this much, have not outperformed the S&P. That's for sure. Bugs Bunny cartoons are better than Mickey Mouse cartoons. Yeah, agreed. Totally agree. The gold key. Right. The expensive one. That's, yeah, the valuable one. Makes sense. Suspense 3, 1.5 sold for $6,000 in 2010. I know. So sad. Do you guys ever, whenever you like flip through books, you look at like the Mile High catalog and then you're just like, Giant Size X-Men 1, $10. I'm like, damn, dude. I remember asking somebody, like, I never ordered from the Mile High, but I remember asking somebody, like, how did it work? Like, you just ordered a giant size X-Men 1 and like there was no grade? Like were they gonna send you like a 5.0 copy or were they gonna send you like a 9.8? And I think it was someone just told me it's like, yeah, like nobody just there was no like grade really. Like they just sent you a copy, you know? They just sent you whatever. And it would usually just be like a mid-grade copy, I think is how it worked. But that's so crazy, you know? And they probably would never sell you something that was like too low of grade, like, you know, not below a 4. But can you just imagine? It's like, yeah, it's 10.0, $10. Here's an 8.0 giant size 1. Must be nice. Even the X-Men ones, like, right? Would they have just sent you an X-Men 1? It was like, what was it in those Mile Highs? It was like, I don't know, $40, $50. And they just would have sent you like a 7.0 copy of an X-Men 1. Here you go. What's crazy is they had that many that they could just put them in the catalog. Like, that they could fulfill it. Mr. Nobody, hey Swaggle, do you collect cards? A little bit, not really. I have a couple like choice Marvel cards just for fun, and then a couple choice Magic the Gathering cards. But that's really it. Like I'm not like a big time card collector, but I like cards. I do like cards. But what ends up happening is, you know, there's only so many collectible things that we can focus on, right? Unless you got Jeff Bezos money, you gotta pick a lane. There's still a lot of comics I'd like to buy, so it's like I try not to like water down my collecting budget um, in the card world. And now I'm into original art, so it's like I kind of feel like comics and original art are going to be like the two lanes I really stick to for the foreseeable future. But you know, a couple cards here and there I like just to kind of balance out the wall or balance out the collection. All right, we got the Red Hood book here. Detective Comics number 168, 7.0. Auctioneer is doing her thing. I've never seen her before. I feel like she's new, a new comic auctioneer. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh man, do you guys see this? The Frazetta behind her? I just realized that's the Frazetta painting. That thing is huge. Holy moly. If I full screen this, can you guys see that? Is that how it works? You probably can't hear what she's saying because I don't have the audio thing. But look at how giant that Frazetta painting is. That thing is massive, especially with the frame. Is that a temp frame? Or is that just a poster? Maybe it's just a swag. I think it's just a poster. Relax. False alarm. Scratch that off the record. Scratch it. Scratch it. It's a print. It's a print. Okay. We're going to clip that out now. Yeah, that thing is going to go. It actually didn't have a lot of bids on it for Frazetta. You know, Frazetta's been getting millions, but it's not really his best work, if I'm being honest. So I'm curious to see what that ends up selling for. But yeah, new auctioneer. She's doing her thing. All right, we got the Detective Comics 178. $27,600 for the 7.0 copy. Curious about this one. Let's take a look. Detective 168. You know, this is one of those books where it's like, there's not that many, but I feel like they always end up in an auction because I think it's such a desirable book that they're always trying to get them in. 167 universal copies. What do we say? This was a 7.0? Yeah, 7.0 at 27. So let's take a look. So 6.5 here was 27.6. So 31.5 and 33.6 for the last two Golden Age books. So again, kind of like what we're talking about here, where it's like, you know, these books sold at the height of comics and the comic boom. And then now this one's going at 27.6. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of had its like correction back down. So even like the Golden Age keys have that. And the reason why a lot of Golden Age keys in theory haven't corrected is because they didn't sell at the time in which things were elevated. So even a book like this can definitely get its pullbacks. But I think that, I mean, it's still a big sale. It's just what it always probably should have been, you know? Speaking of Red Hood Comics, I don't know if you guys saw my my video. Wait a minute. I don't know if you guys saw my little Instagram post, which, by the way, I'm on Instagram. You guys can follow me over there. But shout out to Red Hood Comics, who opened up his store in Las Vegas. But check that out. We got Sanity in the House, my comic series, now in store at Red Hood Comics. Isn't that awesome? We made it. We out here. In store. It's official. So if you guys are in the Las Vegas area, be sure to go visit Red Hood Comics. You guys will love it. It's an awesome store. Great store. And if you don't buy my book there, I mean, there's going to be other books that you can buy there. There's tons of vintage. I mean, he actually, I think he has a copy of Detective Comics 168 that was like in his glass case. I don't know what grade it was. I'm almost certain he literally has it. So you can go over there. You can say, Swaggle sent you. And then you can point to this recent heritage sale. And then you can say, therefore, you should give me a discount. I'll pick one up. I'm from Vegas, so I'll check it out for sure. Awesome. Yeah. Hopefully you enjoy it. Definitely go check out the store either way. It's a great store. But yeah, if you could pick one up, make me look good. He's carrying my book. Like let's we gotta make Sanity like a hot item. So he's like, oh, I will continue to carry it. Dynamic Comics 11. That seems like a pretty big number. This is a cool cover that I feel like is kind of an underappreciated book. Another Gus Rica cover. This is another one where it's like, Gus Rica does awesome faces. Like his faces are like so unique and stuff, and there's so much expression in them. And look at how cool this. I don't know why this is. I love the test tubes, and then like this guy's getting like this acid getting poured on him, and he's like disintegrated in this bottle. Such a funky cover. And then I love the green. It always stands out to me. But a 4.0 selling for 8,400. That seems pretty decent as far as like a number. This is one where it's like, I feel like there's not really much demand for this, but at the same time, like it's so cool to me. So 3.0 sold for 72, 2.0 for 4, 2.5 for 9. So all over the place. A 5.5 for 84. So yeah, this is kind of a funky one because it's like, yeah, 5.5 for 84, and then now the 4.0 for 84. So it's going up. But then the 2.5 went for 9,000. So that was like the outlier. And then a 3.0 for 72. So yeah, I don't know. It seems like a decent sale for this one. And then that one was like kind of an outlier. But a cool book in my opinion. Although the problem with a lot of these books, and again, I've talked about this before, where it's like the sell-through rate. And I know Dave's in the house. Like, I don't know if Dave, have you ever done a video like this? Well, I mean, people have done videos like this, like books that always sell. But it's like a lot of the Golden Age books, the one issue with them is the sell-through rates are always pretty tough. Like I talked about Captain America 3, and I said this when I picked it up in my video, but it's like, say that book has sold over the last 5 years. Let's say that it's sold across all grades 50 times, right? Like 50, it's sold in 5 years, sold 50 times. Like of those sales, it's something like less than 10% are like buy it now purchases. Like the majority of those sales are at times when they get listed at auction. So what I mean to say by this is that like, obviously someone was going to buy it no matter what, when a book goes at auction. And so it's always like one of those things you have to consider when you're like buying something like that, where it's like, if you have like a really eclectic, expensive Golden Age book, that's awesome. But if you ever need to sell it, a Hulk 181 of similar value, albeit less safe to buy and invest in, is probably going to be easier for you to sell. Like someone will always buy your Hulk 181. Someone will always buy your AF-15. But when you have like Dynamic 11, like you're going to probably need to wait longer for that buyer. So if you have this book, Dynamic 11, you bought it for 8,400, you want to get 8,400 for it, compared to Hulk 181. That's what's 8,400 for Hulk 181? Like a 9.2, right? Or something like that. You bring both these books to a comic show, more people are going to inquire about the Hulk 181 9.2 than the Dynamic 11. So I think there's something to that as a discussion when having Golden Age books versus modern stuff or whatever. You should give Rob the flamethrower to display along with his other memorabilia. Dude, I should buy a flamethrower. Does Heritage Auction have flamethrowers in this? How much is a flamethrower? And can you just buy them? I rented mine. No, this can't be right. You can just buy one? Dude, is this real? $630. That's not that much. This was kind of like the one I used too. This one, this green one right here. $629.99. I mean, you know, guys, we could have a flamethrower, or you could buy a first appearance of Gambit. I don't know, you know? What would you rather have? Yeah, I was going to rebrand it. Would you rather? Like, you know what? Actually, we should denominate comic sales in way of flamethrower. Like, this book costs you 10 flamethrowers. Just to put it into perspective of like what you're actually buying. All right, we're gonna go through the Haunted Thrills. We're gonna get to there. We're gonna talk about that. We got some Carl Barks stuff. I don't know, guys. What do you think? I mean, you guys have any like general thoughts or feelings on this auction as a whole? You know, like, is it a little underwhelming to you? As far as like the books that were in it, some of the sales, you think that this is like bad news bears? You think that this is like all sort of, yeah, you know, business as usual? Like, what do you think? I think, to me, the most interesting story is just the type of consignments that are coming in, which could be a good thing for comic books, because like it was like not too long ago where it's like you'd have like AF-1596, Detective Comics 27, Action Comics 1, you know, like every single mega key that was a 7-figure book, high 6-figure book in every auction. And this one right here, the highest book sale so far, if I have this correct, is that Detective One, which was $220,000. So it's like that was the highest ticketed book, which is not that much relative to, you know, some of the other comic book auctions that we've seen where, you know, they were constantly setting world records and things like that. That said, though, if we hop over to the original art, I mean, this is where the big show is, right? You know, tomorrow, I think, is the session for original art. You got the Spider-Woman 1 cover, Marvel Spotlight 32. You got first panel of Iron Man from Toss 39. You have great Herb Trimp covers. Then you got the Frazetta right here, which, again, I don't think it's going to sell that much relative. Like, some Frazettas have sold for $1 million. I don't think this is going to be anywhere close. And some other fun covers, Hulk 256. So maybe most of the money is in the original art side of things. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Just general auctions. What's this? Sometimes there are books where it's like, I've never seen this book. Like, isn't that always kind of fun? Like, I mean, maybe I'm losing my nerd card with you guys, but 4 Favorites, number 5. This is kind of a funky cover. You know, it's funny. It's like, I mean, maybe Ace Periodicals was a great company. I don't know. I don't know the history, but like, isn't it kind of funny when it's like you look at this and you're like, yeah, this feels like more knockoff-ish compared to the other companies at the time, you know? But a funky cover with the gas chamber. This is definitely was made more for kids. They didn't actually put the Nazi symbols on these guys. They just had skulls right here on their generic plumber van superheroes like Magno, Lightning, Unknown Soldier, and Captain Courageous. Unknown Soldier? That can't be a superhero name. Can it? Always found it odd that comics are widely considered inherent investments by default, but it was because people used to read and like the stories. Yeah, I mean, you can't, they can't be investable if they don't go up, and they won't go up if people don't want to hold them, and they won't hold them if they don't have nostalgia for them, and they won't have nostalgia for them if they didn't read them, or at least like the characters. So, yeah. People still collect them like they'll be worth something, but nobody reads and enjoys the stories of the characters. Yeah, well, readership is definitely down. I mean, there are people that read, you know, like I don't want to paint everyone in that brush. There's definitely like a big subset of comics people that are readers, but I think it's mostly habit. I think people just like the comic lifestyle, right? They're just into, they just enjoy going to Wednesdays, buying Spider-Man, the process of putting it in a bag of board and putting it in their short box and just going, ah, you know, I think people just like that. And maybe that's just something that's been conditioned in them. Like at one point they were more of a reader and they did that, but I feel like there's just more people that are just into the collecting part. Yeah. Yeah, more people read, they just read and trade or HC form. Yeah, I agree. I actually do think that there's tons of people that read. In fact, if you go to the entire like one side of the YouTube aisle, like when I think of comic YouTube, I think of like, okay, there's like people who are like more in our space, right? Which is like we're more of the collecting side of YouTube, buying and collecting and vintage and all that stuff. And then there's like the movie side, right? Where it's like there's comic channels that are like they'll talk about the MCU, but their channel is like comicbook.com, you know? And those are really more pop cultural side of things that have touch points to comics. And then there's like the comic reading side, which is like your comics explained and you know, other YouTube channels. And actually those YouTube channels are way bigger than the collecting side. So ipso facto, I think there's actually more people that are into reading comics as a hobby than there are people that are into collecting comics. I actually do think that that's true. Um, but people don't like buying floppies. And that's kind of where, that's really where the discussion of like, are comics dying? You know, it's really in the floppies. And yes, a lot of people assume that comics will be worth money, but most comics will not be worth money in the future. All right, Haunted Thrills number 6, $8,700. Not a bad, not a bad sale for that, but definitely nowhere near the record, which was multiple tens of thousands. Let's take a look here. Yeah, 5,000 for the 5.5, 2017, 50,000 for the 9.2. Crazy. And then the 8.0 copy, 82.86. So there you go. The Bobby Blue went for 82.86 and then went over to Heritage Auctions and kind of met that at 87. So a little bit up. So not bad. All right, guys. Well, you know, that was kind of my coverage this morning of the auction. Some cool books, some interesting sales, some highs, some lows. You know, a little bit of a mixed bag. I don't know how you felt about everything overall, but appreciate you guys hanging out. If you guys don't know, I put out a video earlier today. That was a clip from me and Brian McClay from our podcast that we did. which will come out tomorrow. I put it out at the same time as the auction. Probably not the right move, but hey, you know what? Something to chew on later on if you guys are still interested in watching more of me. Oh boy. So anyways, thanks so much for hanging out this morning. Thought it'd be cool to do a watch along. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Let me know if you guys watched the rewind, if you guys ended up buying anything, if you picked up anything. What are your guys' overall thoughts on this auction? You know, where the prices are at, what's going on in the market. Is this a good sign? Is this a bad sign? Did people move their stock money over into comic books, or did people shy away from buying comic books because they got no more stock money? Anyways, that's all I got for this one. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See y'all in the next stream. Later.